morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are. Today we're doing a live houseplant tour. We're also going to take a look at my indoor food garden, mostly checking out the hydroponics gardening that I've got going on. So we're starting off today's tour in the living room. That is where most of my houseplants live. We're going to start off right beside me with one of my smaller houseplants. This here. You guys see that? Got it on my lap couch. This is an African mask plant, also known as, probably going to butcher the plant name, Alocasia pink dragon. This is what my pink dragon houseplant is looking like. It has 3 leaves, so beautiful. And there's a little bit of a story behind this houseplant. I've had it for, I'm going to say 3 to 4 years now, at least. This was actually a gift from one of my nursing students that I preceptor, Sadie. She was so kind to give me this. And I had thought about buying one of these myself, but I thought they were too difficult to look after because I've killed so many houseplants in my houseplant journey in the last 5 or 6 years. I've gone through a lot of houseplants, and the ones that are left are survivors. So this was a gift, and I struggled to look after this plant for a very long time. At one time, it had 1 leaf left. And I had thought about composting it, but I didn't give up on this plant because I really, really love these dark green leaves. I think they are so beautiful. And I kept nurturing it. It has been repotted, I think once, and it is thriving. Finally, for the first time in its life, it is really thriving. And let me turn the camera around. I think I want to show you some new growth. So if we look at the bottom here, right at the bottom, there is, I believe this is a new growth stem starting. So that is super exciting. It is healthy, it is alive, and it is thriving. This African mask, I know it's called alocasia, but I like to call it an African mask. I think it can go by either name as far as I'm concerned. And it's beautiful. I'm so happy it survived. Let's see how some of the other plants are doing. I did a houseplant tour almost a month ago after the garden supervisor passed away, my old golden retriever. And the plants have been growing really well since then. Sad, bittersweet, because I have more time to spend with my houseplants when I don't have a dog. So, there's ups and downs to life, and this is where it is right now. No dog and more time for plants. So turning around, this is my pothos. I've had this pothos for, I'm not even sure anymore. I'm going to say like 5 years maybe. And it kind of struggled too. Pothos, from my experience, I think are supposed to be easy to look after. And I won't say it was hard. It was easier than this plant, but it hasn't been the easiest plant to look after. It's doing pretty well right now. I did have one branch that was strung up around this picture frame, but it kind of died. I'm not really sure why, so I cut it off. But it's doing okay. It just didn't seem to want to be hung. I thought maybe I could do something fancy and hang it up, but that was not a good idea. So we can continue to climb the pole and trail at the backside. It was close to the floor, but I had cut that off. So that's how it's doing. Some nice colors. I don't know if this is, I guess it's variegated. I think there's some more variegated versions. I don't know the actual name other than pothos, but that's what it's looking like. Kind of a nice piece of greenery here. Let's go over here and check out my rubber tree. This is one of my absolute favorite plants. It is getting so tall. We turn around, let's see here. Turn the camera around and we can compare the height. So I'm the 5'4", door, and this rubber tree is, I'd say, just at the base of my neck. So it's getting pretty tall. It's probably close to 5 feet now. And I've had this for 4 to 5 years, I want to say. Started off growing slow. It's never had any issues. It's been so healthy. And that is super awesome. We turn around and look at my rubber tree. Yes, there is a little bug trap, and that did not come from these houseplants. These plants were and slash are bug free. This is actually the bugs that unfortunately flew in from my indoor food garden. I am not, I understand that bugs fly. They're not going to stay in the bedrooms where the food is, and that's fine. The food garden, they won't be there forever, but it's okay. They're just those little flying creatures, and they're in my vegetable plants, and that's why they're there. So just for a little decor, we've got these little polka dot rocks and some ladybugs to make things a little more interesting in these houseplants. Moving along, we have another rubber tree. This is a variegated version. It's doing really well too, but in reality, it's actually about half the height of my, I think this is called a burgundy rubber tree actually. And they were purchased at pretty much the same time. I think even from the same store. If I remember right, I got them at a store we have in Canada called Canadian Tire. And that's where they came from. And they're both really healthy. They've never had any problems really. Really beautiful leaves. I just love how smooth they are. They've got a really nice texture when you feel the leaf. Hello, Howie. Good evening. Thank you for stopping by. And here at the bottom, we have this cute little character. I really love this. This was a plant trade that I did with a coworker. I gave her a snake plant propagation, and she gave me this very cute little carving. Her partner did this from some beech wood on Vancouver Island. Actually, no, from Gabriola Island. Her partner did that, which I think is so cool. She calls it a fairy, but I feel like it's a different character, and I still haven't put my foot on what type of character this is. It doesn't give me fairy vibes. Like, I feel like this is like, oh, I don't want to call it a monster. It's not, it's a friendly creature, but there's another term for it, and I can't think of what that term is called. It's not a nymph. It's like one of those other mythical creatures. I got to do some research on what these things are called. It's not a fairy. There is some other name for this creature, but very, very cute. So that's the rubber tree. Now, if we swing around this way, this is just a little coffee table here. And, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that. Let's stand up for a minute. This here is my beloved coffee tree. So I got this at Rona, I'm gonna say like 4 years ago, something like that. Maybe 5 years ago now. And when I got it, there were multiple coffee trees in the same pot, and I attempted to transplant them into separate pots, but only one survived, and this is the survivor. It's got beautiful glossy leaves, and it's never produced coffee beans. You just put up a video of lemons in your house. That is fun. I'm gonna have to check that out a little later tonight. Cool coffee plant. Thank you. Yeah, it's never produced beans, but I don't actually drink coffee, so if it doesn't, that's totally fine. If it does, that's cool too, but I really like the glossy foliage. I think it's really beautiful. And next to the coffee tree, we have these Boston ferns. Now, I've heard Boston ferns can be kind of picky with houseplants, but these ones have been very happy here. They did have one spell a year or two ago where they weren't doing so well, and I repotted them, and this at the back is actually a transplant from here. I broke it in half and created another plant, and it's doing fine too. You might like the coffee berries. Mmm, I might like the coffee berries. That's a good point. If it ever produces any, that would be super fun. I hope it does. So, yeah, that's my Boston fern collection at the back there. And we're going to take a little look at my cacti, some of my absolute favorite plants. There's actually a snake plant down here. My cactus collection. So, here it is, some of them. These ones are actually quite pokey. Now, when I pick out cactus, I try to pick ones that are fairly smooth, that don't have the worst spines, because I actually really like to go around my plants and kind of like feel them. That sounds so weird, but I love doing tactile things with my plants and I don't like getting poked. So I look for cactuses that are kind of smooth, like you're not going to get hurt. There are definitely thorns, but there's lots of areas that are smooth, so you can literally touch them and you're not going to hurt yourself. When it was 5 feet tall, you will get berries. Are you talking about my coffee plant? I hope so. I could probably get it 5 feet tall. Just give it some more plant food, wait for it to grow. I think I can do that. Yeah, so these guys, I don't know the names of these, the scientific names of the cactuses, but I think they're pretty cool. I don't know if I'll keep them forever because I really prefer the smooth ones, but for now they're fine. And this one is really funny. I've cut it so many times, as you can see, there's a cut there because it keeps leaning over and I keep repotting it, trying to make it grow straight. And for whatever reason, it doesn't want to grow straight. This is pretty much the Leaning Tower of Pisa cactus. And I'm okay with that. It's getting all kinds of funky growth from the top, probably from all the cutting I've been doing, but it's kind of a funky cactus, which is fun. And right beside it, its neighbor is, I can't remember if this is the same variety. I think it is, that I propagated because I had so many cuttings from this thing. And this one is growing more tall, less leany. So that's kind of interesting. So there they are, the pokey cacti. Now, if we move over a little bit, this is one of my more favorable cactuses. This is actually called a snowy cactus. And you can touch it. It's not vicious. You can give it a few pets. It's almost soft, this snow-like material on the cactus. And it's getting pretty big. I'm quite happy with how much it's grown in the last couple of months. Like, it is awesome. Let's turn the camera around. Let's see if I can perspective. It's about at least a foot, maybe a foot and a half tall at least. It's really taken off with growth, which is so fun. Need a 5-gallon pot. Oh, that's not a problem. And right beside the snowy cactus, we have this little grafted cactus. And we've got a little bit of a character display happening here. We've got a grumpy little gnome who just fell over. And he seems to have a mushroom and a ladybug acquaintance. And if we go into this little cactus collection, this is actually is it a prickly pear? I'm trying to remember now. I think this is a prickly pear cactus if I remember right. And it's got a little bit of a story happening. There's a house and some of these magical mushrooms have been spreading from other areas. And it seems like this alien-like ghost has invaded this little garden and these new species of ladybugs have started emerging in random colors. We've got blues and yellows. And this must be the alien's house. And I think this little gnome is kind of angry about this situation. Doesn't like these invasive species over here invading the cactus. So that's kind of an interesting situation that's happening. We'll have to see how this one plays out. So at the back, we have some dragon fruit cacti. Now they're kind of spindly looking. I'm not sure if I should actually prune them maybe here and try to repropagate this because that doesn't look too bad, but there's some really skinny stems, and I'm wondering if I should just cut them off and kind of start fresh. The bottom is getting new growth, but the top is kind of spindly. I mean, it is climbing pretty high, but I don't know if that's healthy. It looks kind of not as healthy as it could be, so I need to work on that a little bit. Maybe cactus food or something it needs. I don't really know. I'm definitely not a houseplant expert. And then if we come over here, this is one of my favorite cacti. This is a grafted cactus. I don't know the name of the bottom, but this is called a coral cacti, and it is so beautiful. I don't know if the camera's capturing, but there's so many colors in here. There's pinks and purples and greens. It reminds me of a coral reef, just like the name. It is so beautiful. And then coming over this way, again, this is a mystery cactus. I don't know the actual scientific name for it, but I do love how smooth it is, and it's growing fairly tall, so that's really nice. And then coming over here, this is like one of my cactus propagation pots. These are all growing in very strange directions. I swear some of these could become characters in a fairy garden with their growth patterns. Like the one in here, that almost looks like it's kind of the beginning of like a mouse or something that's starting to develop with the way the plant is growing. Very interesting growth patterns with what is happening in there. Now, let's take a look over here. This, I think, is called a corn plant. It reminds me of a palm tree, but as far as I know, it's not considered a palm tree, like a different family of plants. And it's been putting on lots of new growth since supervisor died, and it's finally getting attention. It did hardly anything for the first like 4 years of its life, and finally it's getting growth. But that's probably because I used to severely neglect my houseplants. Like I would water them once every 1 to 2 months on average, and that's probably also why a lot of them passed away. I probably had at one point, I'm gonna say like 60 to 70 houseplants, and now I probably have like maybe 30 to 40. Don't even think it's that many. I haven't counted recently, but I don't have that many anymore. And I actually rehomed one of my cactuses. I'm not showing you because it's not here anymore, to a coworker, just because I didn't love it anymore. Like it was healthy and it was fine, but it just wasn't one of my favorite cactuses. So I'm trying to downsize and declutter a little bit, and that includes plants. That can include any part of your life. If you have too much of something, just downsize it, rehome it, make it simpler in your life. So moving over this way, these are my taller snake plants, much, much taller. We go. This snake plant is just up to my lips. It's probably about close to 5 feet tall at the tallest peak. And I feel like it's been slowing down in growth, but that could be because it's winter time, so it'll probably pick up growth again soon. And then heading into the window here, this I think is either a Thanksgiving or a Christmas cactus, and it has definitely struggled in its life. And no, I'm not a YouTuber who does nude planting. I definitely don't do that. This cactus almost died before Christmas, and I was almost going to compost it, but I gave it TLC, and here it is. It's doing much better now. And moving right along, we have these little air plants. I often forget to show these in my houseplant tours. I think these are so cute. These were inspired by Grandma Sandy. She got me into air plants. I don't know if I'd even heard of them before watching her videos. And she puts them in some of her fairy gardens, and they're really, really cool. I used to have 3 or 4, but only 2 survived. I haven't bought any houseplants in a year or 2 years now. It's been a while. And this one here is doing even better, and it has some beautiful pink new growth. So, so pretty. They're pretty tiny, but I'm hoping with enough care they'll grow and get much bigger. What is my most favorite plant of all time? Well, if we're talking houseplants, I showed it earlier, but I'll show you again. It's actually my rubber tree. It's a simple plant, but I just love my rubber tree. It is so beautiful. And oh, here we go. Turn the camera around. There we go. This tree right here is called, I think, a burgundy rubber tree, and it is my ultimate favorite houseplant. It is quite tall. It's about 5 feet tall now. I've had it for maybe 5 years, and I just love the glossy leaves and how smooth they are. They are so beautiful. And it's to look after its houseplants, and it does have a little bit of a story. Man-eating plant. Not sure what that means, but this little houseplant is not little. It's actually quite large, my biggest. And this is actually, no problem. Oh gosh, the name is escaping me right now. It is not Dieffenbachia. No, there's another name for it. My goodness, my brain just shut down. Anyways, this plant, maybe it'll come back to me, was actually a free plant on Facebook Marketplace. And I got this from an older lady who was quite elderly, and she told me to repot it as soon as I got it. This is actually, when I got this, it was 30 years old. It's probably about 36 years old now, so it's pretty good. It's getting up there in age. And I knew nothing about houseplants at the time. I was just starting to get interested in houseplants. Okay, Howie, have a good night. Thank you for stopping by. And I repotted it. I didn't know what soil to use. I didn't know how big of a pot to use, but I did it, and it's been thriving ever since. Like 6 years later, it's constantly putting on new growth. And I've pruned it a couple times to try to maintain the size issues, which I absolutely love. And it doesn't matter if I give it lots of water or a little bit of water. It doesn't seem to matter which way I go. It's always healthy, which is so nice. It's putting on new growth from the bottom. It kind of gets 2 tones. Like this is a yellowy variegation, and then it gets like this red and green variegation. I don't know if you can see that, but kind of interesting how 2 different tones of variegation are in the same plant. Very, very cool. And I really, really hope that I can have this plant maybe for the rest of my life. Like it is so beautiful and it's so old. I want to preserve it if possible. So that is my, it's not Dieffenbachia. I can't remember the name right now. It's going to come to me as soon as the live stream is done. Then I'm going to remember this plant's name. If you think you know the name, put it in the chat because I cannot remember it right now. And I know the name of this plant, but sometimes my brain does funny things. I'm just going to take a little drink of water and then, actually it's not water, it's my vitamin drink that I've talked about a few times. I know I'm not sponsored by anybody. This is I believe it's called NRC. It's made on Vancouver Island, and it is 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, many different B vitamins, and it had very, very little sugar. It's something like maybe 6 grams of sugar in the package, and it's very, very delicious. I'm drinking a peach flavor right now. So we're going to venture and look at some more plants. This is in the little hallway, so this area doesn't really get much light. There's no windows anywhere in this little section, and I think this is a cylindrical snake plant, or Senservia, I think it's called. This was a transplant or propagation from the mother plant last summer, and it is doing really well in this little container here in the hallway. So now we're kind of doing a two-part series. We did the houseplants, and now I'm going to give you, I don't know a full tour, but a partial tour of my indoor food garden. We're going to start with the hydroponics area and see how these plants are doing in the plant room here. We have all kinds of stuff happening. It feels like a jungle in here, and you can smell the plants. You smell the basil and you smell the tomato when you walk into the room. So I think the most evident thing that's going on here is actually this tomato plant. It has gone absolutely bonkers. It is actually taller than the hydroponics kit now. Oh no, Grandma Sandy, you're not too late. I just started the indoor food garden. We started in my living room and we were checking out the houseplants. And I showed them the air plants that you inspired me to get for fairy gardens, which I still haven't put in a fairy garden. But I'm going to talk about the food garden now, so you're not too late. So this is my tomato plant, and it is going absolutely crazy. Hello, Ace. Welcome. And it's even growing out way at the back. We've got, or actually those are two separate plants, but they're both going completely bonkers in this hydroponics kit. The first time I ever tried hydroponics was last December, and this is the current cucumbers, but they fell off, unfortunately. And I don't know if any of these have actually turned into cucumbers yet. There's more flowers. The flowers are everywhere on this plant. Like, it just goes crazy, crazy producing flowers. But I'm not a good bee. I'm terrible at pollination. I've been trying to pollinate with my paintbrushes and Q-tips that I have been using. I have like a selection of items here that I've been attempting to pollinate with, but I haven't had a lot of luck. I don't know what the bees do that is so different than what the paintbrush and the Q-tip or my wiggling of them is doing wrong, but I need to study the bees' pollination practices because I'm not having a lot of luck. Hello, Alan Williamson. Greetings. So, what else do we have happening? We have this tiny cucumber plant, which might have mildew or something starting. I'm not sure what that is or why it is happening, but it doesn't look healthy. Should probably pluck those leaves off, but it doesn't have many leaves either, so I'm not too sure what to do with this one. I do believe I already attempted to pollinate this flower, so we'll see what happens. And then this big superstar in the corner is a bell pepper plant, and it is toppling over now. This was actually started in soil from seeds from a grocery store bell pepper, and that was started in, I'm going to say September, it was October, I think early October of last year. And it is on fire with growth. It just got its very first flower right here. But unfortunately, I don't have any other flowers to try to pollinate it with. There's more coming. There's more buds. But this one doesn't have anything yet that I can pollinate. It's probably not going to have it before it falls off. But super exciting that it's starting to get its flowers. You're welcome, Grandma Sandy. Thank you for stopping by. And there's another bell pepper plant at the back, but that one doesn't have flowers yet. There are basil plants in here. This basil here, I did a huge harvest actually in a pasta dish I made recently, and it is on fire with growth and is actually clinging to the tomato plant. They're kind of supporting each other quite literally. So that is kind of interesting. I should probably do another good harvest on it and put that into some kind of dish because it's looking rather lush. And there's a smaller basil plant in here too, put in a little later. So lots of stuff is happening in this little hydroponics kit. And now I'm going to show you my one in the windowsill. And this one was started about a month after the first one. And it's got a lot of stuff going on here too. We've got multiple bell pepper plants. They're growing tall and strong, but they're not flowering yet. So we gotta wait a little longer for the flowers to appear. Oh, this one isn't, the light isn't on right now, but it will come on. There's some smaller basil plants in here. One big basil plant that I did a harvest from. You can see I kind of cut the top off. And it's growing strong, so that is really good. And we still have those little characters in there that give out positive affirmations for all these plants. And my little nasturtium over here is growing in the crafty hydroponics method. It's got some variegation on the leaves. Very, very pretty. And I think I'm going to not give you a full tour, but I'm going to show you just a couple things in my other plant room, and then I'll probably call it a day for anyone who watches the recap or is still here. I do have lots in the other room, but I'm going to save some of it for another day. We'll just look at a couple items over here. We're going to check out my beans. My beans are going crazy. Look how tall they are now. They're actually clinging to the cord for the blinds, which I think is kind of interesting. They have the bamboo they've been climbing, but they're going for it. They're really reaching for the light, these beans, which I think is super cool. They are growing in a grow bag of soil. One of my few plant successes. I've had a lot of failures, but this one I think is going to be successful. No flowers yet though, but that's okay. I'm sure the flowers will come. And in case you missed my previous tours, I'll show you the variety. I think I will if I can find the seed package. Maybe not. I think it has gone missing. But that is actually a Black Knight runner bean from Baker Creek. And it is very likely going to get red flowers once it does start flowering. So that is cool, and it produces black beans. Very, very fun. Quick little look at the gnome fairy garden situation here. A little bit different than maybe the last time you saw what was happening with my cucumbers, tomatoes, and tiny little basil seedlings in there. And I don't think I'm going to go through the whole garden tour today because it's probably just too much. I should save it for another day. So thank you for stopping by on my little indoor houseplant and food garden tour. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, and we will see you soon in another video. Thank you, Grandma Sandy. Thank you, Howie, everyone who stopped by. I really appreciate it, and we will see you soon. Have a lovely day, evening, or night, wherever you are. Bye-bye.